Hello everyone, a very good evening to all. So poll has been launched. Quickly answer me through poll. My audio is clear and my screen is visible to everyone. So in today's class, we are going to discuss some of the previous year question from the chapter sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Sir has already taught you this chapter in the previous classes. So in today's classes, we are going to discuss some of the questions so that you people can have an idea what type of question generally ask in NEET and what are the important topics on which you have to give emphasis. Okay, so shall we start? So let's start with question number 1. All right. So let's start with question number 1. And question number 1 says that in some plants, the female gamete develops into embryo without fertilization. This phenomena is known as option 1 is autogamy, option 2 is parthenocarpy, option 3 is syngamy, option 4 is parthenogenesis. And this question came in 2019. Okay, what do you think? What will be the So poll is also launched. If you people want to answer through poll, you can do as well. And if you want to answer through chat, you can do that also. Okay. All right. So some of you have answered 2, some of you have answered 4. Like 27% of you have answered it's D. But majority of you have answered it's B. So let's see what's the correct option. Those who have answered option 4 or option D, they're absolutely correct. See, student, the question is asking the female gamete that develops into the embryo without fertilization. Here they're saying the female gamete and developing into the embryo. Remember these 2 points, female gamete developing into the embryo without fertilization. This important point, like some of you have answered, parthenogenesis and parthenocarpy, they are different terms. When the fruit is formed without fertilization, and the fruit is forming from ovary. Right? Seed is formed from the mature ovule. Fruit is forming from the ovary. So when the fruit is formed without fertilization, that term is known as, or that process or that phenomena is known as parthenocarpy. But the question is asking the female gamete develops into embryo without fertilization. That process is parthenogenesis. Okay? And autogamy, it means self-pollination. So this is option incorrect. Option 2, parthenocarpy. This is also incorrect. Syngamy. This is the fusion of the male and the female gamete. So this is also incorrect. Correct option is option number 4, parthenogenesis. Now it's clear to everyone. Now let's move to question number 2, which says persistent nucellus in the seed is known as. Option A is chalaza, option 2 is perisperm, option 3 is hilum, option 4 is tegmen. And this question came in NEET 2019. So what do you think, what will be the correct option? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? They're asking about the persistent nucellus in the seed. This question is very important. Many times this question came in NEET. Persistent nucellus. Very good, everybody. You all of you have answered it correctly. That is perisperm. Question is asking about the persistent nucellus in the seed. This is known as perisperm. Let's say this is the ovule. Inside the ovule, nucellus is present. Main function of the nucellus is to provide nourishment to the megaspore mother cell. So generally what happens in majority of the cases, after fertilization, this nucellus start degenerating. Okay. But in some cases, it is observed that even after the fertilization, the nucellus remain persistent. And this persistent nucellus is known as perisperm. And the seed in which this perisperm are formed or found, those seeds are known as perispermic seed. Example like beet, black pepper. These are the example of perispermic seed. So you know that the correct option is option number 2, which is perisperm. Now let's discuss why option 1, 3, and 4 are incorrect. Option 1 says chalaza. Chalaza is the basal portion of the ovule. This is the chalazal portion of the ovule. This is the micropyle portion of the ovule. Third says hilum. If this is the ovary in the plant, this is the placenta, right? This is the ovule. And the stalk which connect this placenta to the ovule, this is known as funicle. And the point at which this funicle is attached to the ovule, this point, this junction is known as hilum. Okay. So first is incorrect, third is incorrect. Now fourth says tegmen. We know that a seed has two coats. This outer and inner. Outer is known as testa and inner is known as tegmen. So this is also incorrect. So the correct option is 2, which is perisperm. Now moving to next one. Question 3 says, Seed formation without fertilization in flowering plants involve the process of option 1 is sporulation, option 2 is budding, option 3 is somatic hybridization, option 4 is apomixis. This question came in NEET 2016. What do you think? What will be the correct option? Now in this question, they're asking about the seed formation without fertilization. Very good. All of you have answered it correctly. That is fourth, which is option apomixis. So seed formation without fertilization, that process is known as apomixis. Apo means without. And mixis is for fertilization. If the seeds are forming without fertilization, that process is known as apomixis. Option 1 says sporulation. Sporulation is spore formation. Second option says budding. Budding you have observed in a lower organism also and higher organism also. Like in sugarcane, you have seen the vegetative birds. Option 3 says somatic hybridization. Now, let me explain this term, somatic hybridization. Let's say there's two plants, potato and tomato. So in somatic hybridization, generally the somatic cells are taken, especially their protoplast. Their protoplast are taken from potato. Somatic cell from potato is taken and a somatic cell from tomato is taken. Now these cells, we know that the plant cells, they have a cell wall, right? So these cells, they are first exposed to the respective enzymes so that their cell wall are dissolved. After removing their cell wall, what we will get is the protoplast. So the protoplast are fused to form a hybrid. And the hybrid name is known as pomato. This plant is formed by somatic hybridization. It will have the characteristics of both potato and tomato. You will study about this technique, somatic hybridization, in the biotechnology chapter. Okay. So for this question, the correct option is option number 4, which all of you have answered it correctly. Now moving to next question, the body of the ovule is fused within the funicle at option 1 is chalaza, option 2 is hilum, option 3 is micropyle, option 4 is nucellus. And this question came in NEET 2020. This term I have already explained you when I explained the question number 2. So those who have answered 2, they are absolutely correct. Correct option is hilum. They're asking the body of the ovule is fused within the funicle at. I told you. I'm drawing a very simplest diagram so you people can easily understand it. So there's an ovary. Inside the ovary, placenta is present. And the placenta is connecting to the ovule through a stalk, which is known as funicle. And this funicle is attached to the ovule at a point or the junction, which is known as hilum. This junction is known as hilum. So the correct option is option number 2, which is hilum. Okay, option 1 is chalaza, which is the basal part of the ovule. Micropyle is the tip of the ovule. And nucellus, you know, that's a part of the ovule. So the correct option is 2. Moving to next is question number 5 says megasporangium is equivalent to. This question came in NEET 2013 and the options are option number 1 is ovule, option number 2 is embryo sac, option number 3 is fruit, and option number 4 is nucellus. Okay, let's check what's the correct option. But most of you have answered it correctly. That is option number 1, which is ovule. So megasporangium is equivalent to ovule. Remember this. And megasporophyll, it is equivalent to carpel. Remember these two terms, very, very important. Megasporangium is not equivalent to embryo sac. Okay? Embryo sac is formed when in the ovule there's a nucellus and one cell of the nucellus is get differentiated and form a megaspore mother cell. And this megaspore mother cell undergo meiosis to form the 4 haploid megaspore, right? And out of these 4 haploid megaspore, 3 get degenerated, only 1 is functional. And that functional megaspore will form the embryo sac. So for this question, the correct answer is option number 1, that is ovule. Megasporangium is equivalent to ovule. And megasporophyll is equivalent to carpel. Remember this. Now moving to next question. Question number 6 says, which one of the following statements regarding the post-fertilization development in flowering plants is incorrect? Okay, remember they're asking about the incorrect. Option 1 says ovary develops into fruit. Option 2 says zygote develops into embryo. Option 3, central cell develops into endosperm. And option 4 is ovule develops into embryo sac. This question came in NEET 2019. They're asking about the incorrect. Okay, so those who have answered 4, they are absolutely correct that ovules develop into embryo sac. This is an incorrect statement or the incorrect option, but correct option with respect to the question, because question is asking about the incorrect. First option says that the ovary develops into fruit. Absolutely correct. After fertilization, ovary develops into fruit. Ovule develops into seed. Zygote develops into embryo. Central cell develops into endosperm. But the fourth option says that ovules develops into embryo sac. This is absolutely incorrect. And the correct option with respect to the question. Because embryo sac, they are formed from the fine. Why this name is given female gametophyte? Gametophyte means the plant body which bear the gametes, because embryo sac is the one which has the gamete. Because inside this embryo sac, this egg apparatus is present at the micropylar end, which consists of 2 synergid and 1 egg cell. And at the chalazal end, these 3 antipodal cells are present. That is why the embryo sac, they're also known as female gametophyte. So the correct option is ovule develops into embryo sac. Now moving to next one. Functional megaspore in an angiosperm develops into. Option 1 is endosperm. Option number 2 is embryo sac. Option number 3 is embryo. Or option 4 is ovule. This question came in NEET 2017. The question is asking about the functional megaspore. So all of you have answered it correctly. That is option number 2, embryo sac. First is the ovule. Inside the ovule, nucellus is there. One cell of the nucellus get differentiated into megaspore mother cell. This megaspore mother cell undergo meiosis and produces 4 haploid spores. Out of 4, 3 get degenerate and only 1 is functional. And this functional megaspore will form the embryo sac. So when the embryo sac, they are formed from the one spore. This type of development is known as monosporic development. Because the embryo sac, they are forming from the one functional megaspore. So this type of development is known as monosporic development. And in 80% of the angiosperm, you will observe monosporic development. Okay, remember this very, very important point. If you ever get a question like, which type of development is most common in angiosperm? The answer will be monosporic development, because 80% of the angiosperm, they show monosporic development. And the question is asking the functional megaspore in an angiosperm develops into embryo sac. Correct option is option number 2, that is embryo sac. Moving to next question, question number 8 says perisperm differ from endosperm in. First, option 1, formation by fusion of secondary nucleus with several sperm. Option number 2 is being a haploid tissue. Option number 3 is having no reserve food. Option number 4 is being a diploid tissue. This question came in NEET 2013. They're asking the perisperm is different from endosperm in. This time I get a very mixed answer, like some of you have answered 1, some of you have answered 2. But the correct option is option number 4, that is being a diploid tissue. Question is asking perisperm is different from endosperm in. That means you have to answer with respect to perisperm, first thing. Option number 1 says it is a formation by fusion of secondary nucleus with several sperm. No. Remember that endosperm, it has a triamploidy. That means it is triploid because it is a result of double fertilization or a triple fusion. Fusion of the central cell, which consists of two polar nuclei and the male gamete. Whereas perisperm, I told you, in the ovule, there's nucellus is present. If ovule is diploid, nucellus would be diploid, and persistent nucellus is known as perisperm. If ovule is diploid, nucellus is a part of ovule, it is also diploid. So perisperm would also be diploid because perisperm is the persistent nucellus, right? So the ploidy of the perisperm is 2n, which is diploid. Endosperm has the reserve food material. Similarly, perisperm also has the reserve food. So this option is also incorrect because they're asking for the difference. Second option says being a haploid tissue. No. Neither perisperm nor endosperm, no one is haploid. So this option is incorrect. Option number 4 says being diploid tissue. This is the correct option. That perisperm different from endosperm in because being a diploid tissue. Endosperm has triploid. Ploidy is triploid. But perisperm is diploid. So the correct option is option number 4th, which is being a diploid tissue. Now moving to next one, question number 9 says non-albuminous seed is produced in. This question came in AIPMT 2014. Option are 1 is maize, option number 2 is castor, option number 3 is wheat, option number 4 is. What do you think? What will be the correct option? They're asking about the non-albuminous seed. Question is asking about the non-albuminous seed. Okay, so those who have answered 4, they are absolutely correct. The correct option is 4th, which is P. So another name for the non-albuminous is non-endospermous. So we have studied two types of seed, dicot seed and monocot seed, right? So in dicot seed, you will observe no endosperm, because endosperm is completely utilized by the embryo in case of dicot seed. But in case of monocot seed, you will observe endosperm. That means the endosperm is not completely utilized by the embryo in case of monocot seed. That is why you observe endosperm in monocot seed, right? Non-albuminous means non-endospermous. That means it is dicot seed, right? Maize, you know it's a monocot, so maize is eliminated. Option number 3 says wheat. Wheat is also a monocot, so wheat is also eliminated. Now we left with option number 2 and 4, that is castor and pea. Now in NCERT, there are two exceptions are written. In dicot seed, the exception is castor seed. And in monocot seed, the exception is orchid seeds. Now see student, I told you that in dicot seed, there's no endosperm is found. Like the endosperm is completely utilized by the embryo. Okay, but the exception is the castor seed. Castor, they are a dicot plants. They are the dicot seeds. But in castor, you will observe endosperm. So in castor, you will observe endosperm. Orchids, though they are monocots, but in orchids, you will observe no endosperm. So these are the two exceptions. Please remember the exceptions and the examples which are given in NCERT that are very, very important from the NEET view. Okay. So now we left with option number like 2 and 4, that is castor and pea. Now you can easily eliminate the option number 2, that is castor, and the correct option is 4th pea, because in castor you observe endosperm, and the question is asking about the non-albuminous seeds or non-endospermous seed. That means the seed that does not have endosperm. And castor, though it's a dicot, but it still have the endosperm. So the correct option is P. Is it clear to everyone? Now moving to next question, cotyledon of maize grain is called. Option number 1 is spimule, option number 2 is coryza, option number 3 is coleoptile, option number 4 is scutellum. And this question came in NEET 2016. Cotyledon of maize grain is called. So those who have answered 4, they are absolutely correct. Correct option is option number 4, which is scutellum. Scutellum of maize grain is known as, sorry, cotyledon of maize grain is known as scutellum. Scutellum is a single cotyledon because maize is a monocot. Mono means one, cot means cotyledon. So that means they will have one cotyledon, and that cotyledon is known as scutellum. Very, very important question. Many times this question asked in NEET that the cotyledon of the maize grain. Okay, so remember this, very, very important, is scutellum. And scutellum is a large, single, and shield-shaped cotyledon. This is the embryonal axis. This is the plumule, which will give rise to future shoot. This is radicle, which will give rise to future root. And there's a sheets are present which protect this plumule and radicle. The sheet that protect the plumule, they are known as coleoptile. And the sheet that protects the radicle, they are known as coleorhiza. So the correct option is option number 4, which is scutellum. Now moving to question number 11, which says a typical angiosperm embryo sac at maturity is. Option 1 is 8 nucleate and 7 cell. Option 2 is 7 nucleate and 8 cell. Option 3 is 7 nucleate and 7 cell. Option 4 is 8 nucleate and 8 cell. This question came in NEET 2021. Yes, all of you have answered it correctly. Very good. The correct option is option number 1, which is 8 nucleate and 7 cell. So embryo sac, it consists of 7 cells. And those 7 cells are 3 antipodals, 1 central cell, 2 synergids, and 1 egg cell. Total there are 7 cells and 8 nucleated, because the central cell, it consists of 2 polar nuclei. That is why it is 8 nucleated. So the correct option is option number 1, which is 8 nucleated and 7 cell. Now, next question says, which of the following has proved helpful in preserving the pollen as fossils? Option 1 is pollen kit. Option number 2 is cellulosic intine. Option number 3 is oil content. Option number 4 is sporopollen. This question came in NEET 2018. They're asking that which of the following will help in pollen by preserving as a fossil? So those who have answered 4, they're absolutely correct. That is sporopollen. See, a pollen grain has 2 layers, right? There's the outer layer and there's the inner layer. Outer is known as exine, inner is known as intine. Exine is consist of sporopollen, and sporopollen is highly resistant. Is highly resistant to enzyme. It is resistant to insect, microbes. It is resistant to high temperatures, extreme environment. So the sporopollen is the one because it is highly resistant in nature. So it will help the pollen grain to preserved as fossil. So the correct option is option number 4, that is sporopollen. Now option 1 says pollen kit. So these pollen kit, they are the oily layer or the fatty layer. These are secreted by tapetum. They consist of lipids and carotenoids. And because they consist of carotenoids, they are yellow in color. And main function of this pollen kit, because it's oily, it's an oily layer, so it provides stickiness to the pollen grain. So when the pollen grain, they have this pollen kit, they become very sticky. So they help in the pollination, especially the biotic pollination, the insect pollination. Because they are being sticky, they easily get attached to the body surface of the insects and they help in the pollination. So remember these points regarding the pollen kit. Now moving to next question. Next question says, which one of the following statement is not true? Remember, it's not true. They're asking that which statement is incorrect or not true. Option 1 says tapetum helps in the dehiscence of anther. Option 2 says exine of pollen grain is made up of sporopollen. Option number 3 says pollen grains of many species cause severe allergies. Option number 4 says that stored pollen in liquid nitrogen can be used in the crop breeding programs. And this question came in NEET 2016. So the correct option is option number 1, which says that tapetum helps in the dehiscence of anther. Okay, this is the correct option with respect to the question, because tapetum, it helps in providing the nourishment. To the pollen grains. They're not involved in dehiscence of anther. Remember, the anther, it consists of 4 layers. There's epidermis, which is the outermost layer. Then there's endothecium. Then there's middle layer. And the innermost is tapetum. Remember, these 3 layers, epidermis, endothecium, middle layer, they are involved in protection and in dehiscence of anther. Tapetum is the only layer which is involved in nourishment. Okay. Option number 2 says the exine of pollen grains of many species, they cause severe allergy. This is also correct. 4 says the store pollen in liquid nitrogen can be used in the crop breeding program. This is also absolutely correct, because the pollen banks are there where the pollen grains of different plant varieties are stored. And these pollens, they are stored at very low temperature, like at minus 96 degrees Celsius. And that preservation is known as cryopreservation. Okay, so 2, 3, and 4 statement are correct. And statement number 1, that tapetum helps in the dehiscence of anther, this is incorrect. And the correct with respect to the question, because question is asking which statement is not true. Now moving to next question, what is the fate of the male gametes discharged in the synergid? Option 1 is one fuses with the egg and the other degenerate in the synergid. Second, all fuse with the egg. Third, one fuses with the egg and the other fuse with the synergid nucleus. Fourth, one fuses with the egg and the other fuses with the central nuclei. This question came in NEET 2019. So all of you have answered it correctly. Very good. Correct option is option number 4, that one fuses with egg. This is known as double fertilization. So there's two male gamete, one fuses with the egg and it forms the zygote. And the another male gamete fuses with the central nuclei and it forms the endosperm. Okay, so the correct option is option number 4. I hope it is clear to everyone. Now it's already 6. We are winding up the class. I hope this lecture was informative for you and interesting at the same time. Thank you all for your participation. See you in the next class.